Dr. Elizabeth Hoefer is on a mission. She wants to know, is your head on straight? In a world gone sideways, Dr. Hoefer provides clarity with balance and structure.
Welcoming my guest back, Elizabeth Cappellitti, for part 2 of our podcast. I just want to remind you that she's an incredible marriage and family counselor who likes to look at her practice from a holistic standpoint, understanding that the mind, the body, and the spirit are intertwined in an integral way. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome you back to the show, Elizabeth. The first part we covered about your personal testimony with Blair Chiropractic and your low back pain. But today I want my listeners to understand from a professional standpoint with what you do with your therapy work and also your personal life with your children and your husband. How does the Blair Chiropractic method fit into all of that? So let's start with your work, because obviously that's what you do 40 hours a week. And it's kind of what you said in your first interview is that you're a healer and you choose to use this method to help people heal with their lives.
Mm-hmm. So, my practice is actually called the Mind Body Wellness Center. And I chose that name because I feel like we can't be balanced and healthy and successful unless we're healthy and balanced in all areas, including our body. So when I have somebody that comes into me that's in pain, that is going to affect their mental health. And I see that left and right. And I also know from my own experience. So even though it was horrible that I went through that pain, it was also, I feel like in some ways a blessing because it's helped me to understand what other people go through. And it's also great because when I encourage my clients to come to you, I have my own personal experience. So to tell them, and they trust me, and to say, hey, this is somebody who changed my life, who I wouldn't be sitting here in front of you had I not gone through this and was able to be healed from it. It's convincing to them because they know that, and they know that I wouldn't send them anywhere that I didn't fully 100% believe in and try myself. So, but definitely when I have people that come in and are dealing, actually all kinds of stuff, because even if it's a sleep issue or it's, they're having headaches or they're having pain in their hand, well, especially my experience being a massage therapist, if you're having those like pins and needles coming up from your neck, that anytime I have anybody that has any type of pain or issue, even, I've had clients that I've encouraged to come to you that they have a pain in their chest that feels like it's coming from their heart. They've had all kinds of tests. This particular client hasn't come to you yet, but I've encouraged her. But even stuff like that, because it's dramatically affecting their lives. And we can do all this work on the mental health area and stress management and all this stuff, that if they're having a physical pain that's continuing to afflict them, it's going to affect their mental health. So it's really, really huge. And I have an acupuncturist that works with me as well, and she can do a great deal, but the work that you do is something entirely different. So it's a huge part of my practice that I work with individuals, and I really strongly encourage. And like I said before, you know how many people I've sent your way. So.
Yeah, and being able to have these networking connections. Obviously, when I show up to work, my priority is to make sure that your spine is in alignment, your nervous system is intact, and your head is on straight. But then obviously getting to know my patients, we talk about what they do for a living. And because I know what you do, I likewise refer back to you. I have a patient that I take care of that I've made and encouraged several times to give you a call, dealing with just having a hard time leaving the house because of anxiety. And so again, referencing our first interview, if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to Elizabeth's first interview with me. And structure dictates function. So if your physical body is in alignment, your nervous system is intact, then everything else can kind of be worked on. And you often cannot get to the root of the mental malady, if you will, because there's physical pain that's blocking that. People can't think about making better life choices and how to eat better or not be grouchy with their kids if they're constantly in pain.
Absolutely. There was a whole other piece that I never knew about until you shared your story with me about the mental health aspect in regards to dis-ease that was going on within, you've shared your story, right?
Yes.
So your mental health issue that you were dealing with. And so also, sometimes when I have clients that aren't getting better because they have depression or maybe bipolar disorder is coming up or whatever, I even have a client who I really feel has schizophrenia. Now, whether or not they come in is a different story, but when you shared about how much that changed things for you, it was just so profound because now in this other area, it's not just the physical pain that you can help with, but also like the mental health. And obviously the two go hand in hand. So when people are having pain, it can cause mental health issues. But from what I understand from you too, mental health issues can be caused by a structural misalignment. And actually, in fact, I know we're probably going to be getting into this, but I came in here last week with my daughter having night terrors, which if any of you have kids and have had that, it's extremely terrifying to have your kids like wake up in the middle of the night. They're screaming, crying, looking at you, almost don't even know who you are. And it's like they're awake, but they're not really awake. And she was doing this weird thing with her jaw too. And I came in and told you like, oh yeah, she's probably out in her atlas. Like, no problem. Like, I know what this is. And I'm like, what? And then sure enough, she was out. Since then, she hasn't had any more, which is like profound.
Right. And I think the reason that she got knocked out in the first place was soccer. And so when kids are learning how to do new activities, your little girl's 6.
She's going to be 6.
Right. Yeah. So she's almost 6 and just like learning how to walk. Mm-hmm. So we're going to get into that in just a second. But I think it's so true that it's neat that you recognize from a professional standpoint how important this is. From the mental, the physical, the emotional component. And that's awesome that you have the Mind Body Wellness Center because it literally is your life. Like you have a nervous system that you filter your life through, but that has to come through your body. And you have a soul that has to kind of appropriate all these different things. And that's where you have your mind and your emotions and your will. And all of that has to work synergistically together. And if it doesn't, if one piece is off, you're going to be messed up.
Yeah, and I'm always telling people this, it's really interesting, especially here in our culture, we separate the two so much, like our mind and body, like somehow one doesn't influence or impact the other. And I even think about painkillers, right? We take these painkillers, and I have a client who, unfortunately, she was shot in the whole Vegas thing that happened. And she was sharing with me about how she's starting to feel a lot more anxious now, but it's also because she's tapered off the drugs that she was taking for the physical pain. And so there's this whole kind of tie-in that goes in with that. Or even, you know, some of you out there might be in pain and you're taking these painkillers and they might kind of take that edge off. But also, one thing you've told me before, you take those painkillers and then you're going to push yourself to do something that's going to mess you up even more, right? And then how does that affect your mental health? Like you're numbing out from things and that becomes a whole addictive thing too, right?
100%. I tell people, like, when you take a muscle relaxer to relax that spasm in your low back, it's not just relaxing that specific muscle. It isn't like that drug is tied to that multifidi muscle at L4. It's relaxing all of your muscles and it's relaxing everything. So it definitely has a psychosomatic component to it because it's numbing you out. Like you said, pain is an indication. There's no good or bad associated with it. It's just information. So you can choose to say, oh my God, I'm in pain. My life is over, or, oh my gosh, I'm in pain. Hey, I should probably look into this. And so obviously those are two very huge extremes, but somewhere in the middle is where you're actually going to be able to like make decisions about what's going on and then like figure out, get to the bottom of it. And it's important to understand that.
And that reminds me so much of like the way that I do my work too, is that I'm not looking to just get rid of a symptom, not just put a Band-Aid on something or just take an Advil. I'm really trying to help my clients look for the source of the problem, right? So I can't tell you how many clients have come into me that say, oh, I'm having panic attacks and I have no idea where they came from. There's no reason why. And after we start to talk about it, there's like this laundry list, like, oh, somebody close to me died and this happened. I'm having a fight. It's like, I'm like going, oh my gosh, if I were to sit here and tell you all this stuff, you're telling me this, my heart is starting to palpitate. Right? And so just being so disconnected from that and really working on the source. And I think that's another reason, I mean, besides the fact that you guys help me so much is like a miracle, but it's really finding the source and treating the source and not just, I feel like, you know, like I said, not to knock any other chiropractic care, but for me personally, what I felt, it was just a Band-Aid. It will help you for today, and then you're going to need to come back in a couple days because it's like you're going to need another Advil, basically. But also, I never went when it got to the point where I couldn't walk. I wasn't even, it was like, forget it. I'm not dealing with it. It just, I feel like the work that you do here is really going to the source. That's so in line with the work that I do too.
Yeah, I love it. You're talking my language. And I just love it that we are in completely different fields. But the way that we look at helping people feel better, you do it through getting them to recognize patterns and like self-evaluation and the psychological family history, psychological evaluation. I do it by looking at the structure of their spine. But it's interesting because I also do an intake and we spend about an hour and a half with our patients, their first visit. And most of the time is spent on trauma history. And that's physical trauma, mental trauma, and chemical trauma. And when people start telling me that they almost drowned when they were 10 because they got sucked into the ocean by waves, or their father was an alcoholic and they lived in shame their entire life because they were embarrassed of their dad and his behavior, or their mother left them, you name the thing, I've heard it. Yeah. And obviously that stuff has an impact. Absolutely. So there's that book that you just shared with me, The Body Keeps the Score. I'm still listening to it, but it's so powerful. And that was when I was a massage therapist, I remember learning how, and this did indeed happen to myself and other people that I worked with, is that, you know, you can be working on somebody's body and then all of a sudden they just like start crying. They burst out into tears. And
it had happened to me before too. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Well, because your body holds the stress. And that's often actually something too. The great thing that I have this experience as a massage therapist is sometimes people are so unaware of what they're feeling. I'll say, check in with your body. What does it feel like in your shoulders, in your neck? And that's where you carry your stress. And I had clients that I would work with on a regular basis. And I could tell the status of what their week was like based on as soon as I put my hands on them, I could feel it in their shoulders. All right, what happened? I was really doing therapy.
Yes.
I'm sure you do.
Yes.
Kind of therapy.
I feel like I am a therapist on most of my follow-ups, and I love it. I'm not a trained therapist in any stretch, but I've had enough therapy in my life to feel like I can use some of my experience to kind of move forward. Because one thing I wanted to mention earlier when we were talking about all this different stuff is without tests, you can't have a testimony. And without a mess, you can't have a message. So think about it. Everything that you guys might be experiencing right now, from mental anguish to physical pain to feeling anxiety, all that stuff, it can be fixed. It totally can be fixed. You just have to find the right person. And if it isn't me, then it's somebody else. Like, you can't quit trying to find the help, but I can assure you that at least get your nervous system intact and structure in alignment. That's a very phenomenal starting place.
Absolutely.
So let's go back to your kids, because you're a mom. And this is something you've wanted since you were a young woman. And before you had your back pain, you dreamed of having a family. You got that horrible back pain. It literally, at 23 years old, you're like, I'm not ready to have kids now, but what if I can never do it because of this? You got the healing from the chiropractic adjustment, and now you're a mama to 2. And getting them has been an incredible journey, and keeping them has been an incredible journey, right? But tell me, because we talked a little bit earlier about the night terrors that your older daughter had. Give me an example of how you know your kids are out of alignment, or what made you even think to bring them to the chiropractor in the first place. Because, oh my gosh, people are so freaking scared of chiropractic as an adult. And then to think that you're going to do the same thing to their kid, their precious honest, little baby.
Yeah, my husband was a little bit like, wait, what? You're taking them? Like, yes, it's fine. So I think that I can't, it's been so long. I've been coming here, I don't even forever, since I was 23, and I'm 37 now.
Right.
So you do the math. But I know that I brought my youngest one, Violet, in, and she's going to be 2 on Sunday. And I brought her in because she was doing like this pigeon-toed walk thing. She's amazingly balanced on her feet, that kid. I mean, she can run. I'm like running down a hill. I'm going, oh God, like don't fall. And she like totally, it's just unbelievable, right? So my husband, there's like a lot of sports in his family. So both of them are really sporty. But all of a sudden she was walking really pigeon-toed, and she was like tripping over her feet and stuff. And I was really nervous about that. Talking to other moms, some things you read, they say, oh, it's normal, it happens. And I don't really go in line necessarily with that. It doesn't really feel right to me, because I also feel, especially once again, with the history that I have and body mechanics and all of that, I'm thinking to myself, if she is starting to walk like this, she's going to continue to have these patterns of this, and it's going to become her way of walking. So I bring her in and you're like, oh yeah, no problem. Let's work on that. And I'm like, okay. And then you just do a couple little things with her. And it was amazing. We immediately saw a difference. She also, especially she's got an older sister, wants to do everything her older sister does. So standing up on the couch, she's falling over the couch. She hit her head so many times. I'm like, oh my God. I know, like a bubble around. I know, like when I do trauma history, because I am like also have a 4-year-old daughter and then an 8-year-old. I vividly remember learning how to walk and watching them tumble and fall and twist and jump and just be fearless. So I ask these questions now, like, hey, when you were like a kid, do you remember your mom ever telling you that, yeah, you crashed your head on the coffee table, or you flipped backwards over the bed, or whatever? Because I have seen it myself with my own kids, and thankfully within minutes I can get them checked. But obviously not everybody's a chiropractor. No. So the fact that your older daughter, she'll have played soccer and like slid out, and she'll be like, should I bring her? She's having this. Yes, bring her in. Yeah. Sometimes she's not up, sometimes she is. Yeah. But let's talk about that night terror thing, because what had happened? Like, she had played soccer, and I don't even remember, honestly, the timeline, because it's been, so I brought her in this last Friday. I don't remember specifically anything happening right before, but she had been having more nightmares too. And then then it went into the whole night terror thing. And so, of course, as a mom, and especially as a therapist, I'm like, oh my God, what happened? Did something traumatic emotionally happen to her? Did somebody just like go through all this stuff? Right. And then I'm reading online, oh yeah, it's normal. It doesn't mean anything traumatic happened. But when I brought her into you, it was very clear to you that something physically traumatic probably happened. And yes, indeed, I mean, running around, and actually at some point, a couple of days before, she had this big scratch on her back. And I think she had, I don't know, fallen off the couch or done something. So I'm like giving her a shot. I'm like, what the heck happened to your back? I don't know. And she's really sensitive. So I'm sure whatever happened at the time involved screaming. And my husband said, oh yeah, she fell off the couch or something happened. we have houses kind of set up for our kids.
Right.
The living room, we've got like the 2 couches and she likes to jump from one to the other. And I don't even know what the heck she did, but I don't know if along the line something like that happened, or let's be real, she's running around all the time. She can bonk herself all the time.
Absolutely. So for her, it immediately manifested in these night terrors. And then we adjusted her last Friday and she's going to be 6. I think she's had 3 upper cervical corrections since I've been taking care of her, and she's a baby when she started. So that's pretty incredible considering all the things that kids get into. Just so you know, you're not getting an upper cervical adjustment every single time you come. The whole point is to get you to hold that thing so that you heal. But when things happen, we get you back into alignment. So,
and it was pretty cute too, because every time, sometimes I'm lucky enough that I can come by myself, but other times they'll come with me and she like climbs up and is ready. Like, okay, it's my turn.
Yeah, it's so fun when kids come in and they know the drill and they are so excited because they know, even though they can't articulate it with their words, they know that their body feels better and they just want to lay on the table and get fixed. And so, it was really
Another
sweet.
thing that I think of to bring her sometimes too is if she's getting sick. Like there's stuff that you're able to do that I don't know how it all works, how the magic works, the Hocus Pocus magic. Now, it's phenomenal. I mean, I don't know if it just is doing that kind of helps your nervous system be in the right place to be able to fight off.
Well, this is the thing. Your nervous system, again, runs every system in your body. So if you're starting to like deal with a virus from a cold or bacteria from whatever, you come in, you get checked, we do some body work and support the correction if they're not out. Your immune system is essentially boosted. And there's neurological like explanation that would take me 14 years to talk about. And I'd rather let Dan Murphy, DC, actually do all that because he's brilliant. The immune system is enhanced because your nervous system is intact. And if we can do some things to support that, then you're able to fight disease better, if you will.
Yeah. And I can totally attest to that. I mean, next I'm bringing our little one in here on Friday because her system has been running really slow. Like she's been really constipated and it's been painful for her, and it's due to the point where she's kind of like afraid to go to the bathroom.
Right.
And I like want that to be fixed. So, but immediately I thought, oh, what if I was trying to massage her stomach? I'm trying to adjust her diet and all this stuff. But also I know that there could be something structurally going on that could cause that.
And I know that you told me a couple of weeks ago, she like fell out of her car seat the stroller or something like that.
I don't remember.
Yeah. I mean, it happens so often with kids. Like
she's like...
It's like one story after another. I can't even keep it straight. The only way I know is because I take notes. So anyways, this has been really fun. I'm so excited. So you take your kids and you obviously have convinced your husband to come in and get care. So that's been good because there's been a noticeable difference with his life and the things that he's gone through. And obviously so grateful for you and for your passion for balance and well-being, mentally understanding that it's a structural issue. Yeah. So I'm thankful that you're an ally.
I'm thankful for you, girl.
And I mean, we're just one big love fest over here. If you could just come over and just give us a big hug, we'd love it. So I'm excited. I want you to check her out. Tell me the name of your business and how we can find you because people are going to want to like find you.
Yeah. So the easiest way, and the spelling's you'll probably have that up there, is ElizabethCappellitti.com. It's the Mind Body Wellness Center in San Juan Capistrano. There's a lot of mind body wellness centers out there. So find looking up my name. And hopefully you guys can spell that.
Everything will be listed on our blog,
letters.
My listeners. And it's such a beautiful name, Elizabeth Cappellitti. And so thank you so much for being here with me for these last 2 segments. And I'm really grateful. And I know my listeners are going to be so stoked to learn about all the different things that you have understood and the promise of having your head on straight. So thanks for being here. And we are so grateful. And I will look forward to talking to you soon.
Me too.
Thank you for listening to Is Your Head On Straight with your host, Dr. Elizabeth Hoefer. Visit drhoefer.com for more details in the show blog post and to learn what Blair Upper Cervical Chiropractic Care can do for you. That's drhoefer.com, drhoefer.com.